This video is sponsored by Manscaped. Stay tuned to find out more. When you think of fashion and hip-hop, it's likely that A$AP Rocky comes to mind. I mean, he's from New York, so it's in his roots. The city itself is home to their infamous Fashion Week, which has had a strong influence on the industry throughout each decade. More specifically, fashion and hip-hop were actually first seen in this city. In the late 80s and early 90s, when hip-hop started to become more widespread, we saw hip-hop's first real product placement, with New York City's very own Run DMC, specifically on their My Adidas advertisement in 1985. This direction was followed with acts such as Public Enemy, KRS-One, and Queen Latifah, who began to use their fashion sense to define their brand identity. Once the 90s hit, the lowlife movement came around. The group took the country club brand Ralph Lauren and merged it into their own maximalist style. By stealing and reselling these clothes, this new narrative was brought to Ralph Lauren, way past the country clubs and into the heart of New York City. This movement greatly benefited the brand in the long run. The brand now became representative of various versions of the American dream, not just the one that includes golf courses and equestrian estates. This style was adopted by massive acts such as Wu-Tang and Biggie, pushing the lowlife movement further than they could ever imagine. At this point, luxury fashion came further into play, bringing the mafia mentality with it. Designer suits and ready-to-wear clothing like Versace and Prada were now spotted on the biggest artists in the industry. As time went on, oversized clothing came back in the late 90s and early 2000s. Many similar luxury brands clashed with some of our artists' favorites. Around this time was when artists realized the influence that they really have, which is why brands like Wu Wear, Billionaire Boys Club, and Rocawear started to begin. Over the next decade, hip-hop's influence really began to grow. Many of these luxury brands began to find the advantage of having their identity not only in the higher class world, but also in the streets, the places where hip-hop calls home. I can talk for hours about the deep influence that our favorite New York rappers had in the 90s, or the multi-decade long influence that the lowlifes had. But this timeline has already brought us perfectly into the late 2000s, which brings us to our subject, Rakim Myers, or A$AP Rocky. So how did A$AP Rocky find himself in this timeline and become a fashion icon? Born in '88, A$AP Rocky essentially lived through every era of hip-hop's role in fashion. In 2007, he joined A$AP Mob, a Harlem-based collective that was in its fairly early stages. The group included up-and-coming musicians, music video directors, and fashion designers. Before 2010, we only saw the release of one single that came with a music video. This was the track Get High. Although not nearly as big as Peso, we saw the glimpse of style that the A$AP Mob had at the time. In the music video, A$AP Rocky was wearing a Billionaire Boys Club hat with Jeremy Scott Adidas, while Ferg was wearing a Carhartt vest. Our next music video, Purple Swag, features the brand Black Scale, the same brand that he got a full-on collaboration with barely a year later. He got the idea of wearing Black Scale in the Purple Swag music video because he used to hang out at a clothing store in Soho, New York. He would stay alongside the brand for a very long time, and they'd actually end up relying highly on Rocky for a majority of their branding, until their shortcoming in recent years. Their first mixtape release as a group was the fan-made Deep Purple tape, which included the massive hit Peso. This track was actually leaked before the tape came out, but within a few weeks of the leak, the single already started getting radio play. In 2011, the same year of Peso, we saw a ton of singles that came to success because of A$AP Yams, founder of A$AP Mob. At the time, he owned a very popular Tumblr page. This blog included obscure gangster rap, scans from old hip-hop magazines, rare photos, and a variety of inside jokes. It had a devoted following, it was historical, and an alluring blend of street and nerd knowledge. For further context, Yams was known in the group as the Human Wikipedia. He defined him and Rocky's relationship as Yoda and Luke Skywalker. The reason that these singles became so big was because Yams would publish them in his anonymous, very popular blog. He said that he was writing about Rocky like he doesn't know him. The importance of 2011 in fashion is that we visually began to see A$AP Rocky's style through these music videos that were released as his debut album was up and coming. But we didn't really see him blow up until the Peso music video, which holds a very key point in his career, especially regarding fashion. In the music video, he can be seen wearing Supreme, Y3, Jeremy Scott, and Rick Owens. It was the first time we got to see him in his signature look, showing the juxtaposing idea of high fashion and streetwear. This was especially important because Peso had next to no budget. He wasn't wearing these clothes for anybody, but rather himself. This was the purest form of A$AP Rocky. Ralph Simmons and Rick Owens are actually what he's usually dressed in. Although he might not be as fashionable as ASAP, style doesn't always start above the waist, but rather below. No, a bit higher than that. With the help of today's sponsor, Manscaped, you can discover style past your outfit with the Performance Package 4.0. They sent me their Performance Package 4.0 and I honestly love it so far. Inside this bundle, you'll find a Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, which is truly a piece of work. It's waterproof, wireless, and has an LED so you can actually see what's going on. The package also includes ear and nose trimmers, ball deodorant, ball toner, and briefs with a travel bag. If you're spending this much on an outfit, do yourself a favor and treat your balls, because you know that clothes will only get you so far by the end of the night. So support this channel on your balls and get 20% off and free shipping with the code CWM at manscaped.com. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. Upon this whirlwind of success, he announced Raf Simons' 1995 and the ASAP collab, a family and friends collection that never really saw the light. But even just a peek at this collection proved how deep ASAP Mob's roots ran through the industry. Which is why when the music video blew up, the connections and deals followed. Upon the release, he would secure a $3 million 2-year record deal. Shortly after, he moved up from wearing black scale to hood by air. Around the same time, he'd also be seen wearing Ben Trill, a collection of merchandise released by Virgil Abloh, Huron Preston, and a few fellow DJs. By repping Ben Trill, he connected to Virgil, who actually designed his first tour merch. Later that same year, Abloh opened a boutique called Pyrex Vision, which was centered on the concept that went viral because it was basically a scam. They would buy simple, cheap Champion basics and discounted luxury brands. They would use these pieces and screen print their own super simple graphics on top of them and sell them for hundreds of dollars. Pyrex eventually came to a halt with a cease and desist due to the brand name. ASAP 12y ended up giving Abloh the name and push to rebrand into the brand that we all learned to love, Off-White. Shortly after, we would see ASAP Bari create a brand new project that would find itself on every single member in 2014. Live Alone, Die Alone was the motto for the new brand, V-Lone. Since ASAP Rocky is arguably the most influential member, he would find himself quickly becoming the face of the brand. Within a few years, he began to model for Dior, which was a huge moment for him, since he was always inspired by high fashion models at a young age. In early 2016, he collaborated with Guess to present a revived line of their infamous 90s stripe tees, which were very popular in the vintage scene at the time. This collaboration was extremely successful, selling out and reissuing a new line in the following year. At this point, in every way, ASAP Rocky solidified himself as a fashion icon. I doubt he'll go without an invite to any fashion week or similar popular event within the future. He was more recently found starring in a Gucci ad with Tyler the Creator in 2020, and has been moving with a similar style ever since. Compared to 2011, it's clear that he geared more towards color in his recent years. This is especially seen with the music video Aria, where he is wearing the human-made Testing varsity jacket, which was released and sold out a few weeks after the music video. In the same video, he's wearing a Gucci monogram puffer, while in another recent video, Doja with Snot, he's wearing brighter outerwear and a Gucci North Face vest. ASAP Rocky found success in the fashion industry because fashion was in his roots, before he was even an artist. He essentially found success through transparency and actually loving fashion. ASAP Rocky always had a strong stance on not starting his own brand, because he knows how much work goes into one. But the way that he's moved around the fashion world and has given influence through collaboration has definitely changed the way that hip-hop views fashion. Without a doubt, I believe that he's made the most significant fashion impact of an artist in the last decade. And I'm very excited to see what the future holds in store for ASAP Rocky. Now I want to hear from you guys. What's your favorite era of ASAP Rocky? Also, who do you think has the greatest artistic impact from the ASAP mob? Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time guys.